Good morning. Would like to start? So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Gregory Apple, and I'm a PM with Excel, specifically with the group that deals with Excel Online. So today, I'm going to be presenting an overview of Excel Online application, its capabilities, some updates of what we've done during the past year. I've run a couple of demos just so we can get a feel of the tool. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you would know what you can use it for, where to get it, and why it's useful. Okay? Let's start with a quick show of hands. How many of you have seen Excel Online? Okay, almost everyone. And how many of you work with it on a daily basis? Few. Okay, cool. That's good. So you know how it looks like then. Basically, it's the familiar Excel interface in a web browser. And that's what you get when you open it up. And the best thing about it is that the only thing you really need is a browser to work with it. You don't need to have Excel Desktop installed. You don't need any other tools other than Office 365 in order to work with Excel documents. If you do want to work with Excel documents and have, do heavy authorship, switch to Excel Desktop, this switch is really easy. You have a button, you can just press it, and the document, the workbook opens in Excel Desktop. You can do whatever heavy lifting you need to do in Excel Desktop and go back to Excel Online. This transition is really easy. And some people do use it for some things. On the other hand, the best thing, I think, with Excel Online is that you can really use it without the desktop application. And a lot of our customers need it because it gives them better collaboration between users. So, for example, we don't really log files, okay? So people can actually use together on the workbook. I will introduce a bunch of features that Excel Online has that are particularly suited for collaboration. So first of all, users can share their workbook once you upload them to OneDrive. You can actually share them with others, set permissions. You can co-author online. So users can actually go into one and the same workbook and do some work together, collaborating on it. They can see each other's presence, as you can see on the screen, and they also are able to know how many of them are collaborating, who is in the workbook, and who does what, which is really useful. There are some real-time commenting, so if you put in comments and you happen to be discussing a particular cell with your colleagues that are located remotely, you can do commenting and you will actually see them add up in real time. So it's sort of like a chat. One other useful thing is our integration. Excel Online has integrated with Microsoft Forms to provide the capabilities of real-time polls. So your Excel user can now press a button within Excel and create a quick form, a quick survey, fill in the questions, and send it to the audience, all without leaving the browser. And then once the audience starts to answer the polls, answer the service, the responses will start adding up in real time into the workbook. It's useful for EDU scenarios and some other cases. Chat is another capability that we have. So basically, if you have a few users collaborating on a workbook, they can chat with each other through the integrated Skype button. Again, without leaving the browser, without leaving the window, which is really useful. And this chat is not saved with the workbook, so it's transient. It's going to be deleted as soon as you close the browser. Last but not least, as IT people, you all know that there's this worry about having different versions of Excel used for editing this one workbook, and whether or not it will work or not. So with Excel Online, all of your users use the latest version, always up to date. Basically, as soon as we ship an update, all the users of Excel Online get it. And when you work with workbooks in desktop applications as well, Excel Online is backward compatible, so whatever edits you do here and there are good, are saved, so it works, okay? We keep improving Excel Online constantly, and what I'd like to present to you is a few highlights of what we've done in the past year. So some of them you may be aware of, some of them have not shipped yet, but will ship this year. I will not go through all of them. I will just give brief highlights, but what you should be able to see, hopefully, is that the amount of work that we've done and the focus that we have on facilitating lightweight editing capabilities. So we believe that users that go into Excel Online, you know, there's a bunch of scenarios where Excel Online is useful, and in the past we concentrated on workbook consumption. So people should be able to go in, view the workbook, view the ready-made report. Today we're trying to expand these capabilities successfully, I believe, to allow people to do lightweight editing tasks, reviewing the workbooks in a more lively manner, and do some lightweight analysis as well without leaving Excel Online. So let's see a little bit of what we've done. In the Home tab, you can see conditional formatting as one of the things that was lacking, and our users really craved for it, so we're adding it as we speak. The forms integration that I mentioned can also be seen nearby. As I said, it's a button. Users can go in, click, and add a form. I believe that during this Ignite, there were lots and lots of presentations of Microsoft Forms, so I'm not really going to repeat them. But if you have questions about how it works, we can take it offline, and you can always look up my deck and some presentations of others on the Ignite site. If we look at the Insert tab, so one other interesting feature is the ability to insert a pivot table, and that's where lightweight insights and analysis is starting to emerge. We're going to introduce this capability really soon. It's already working in our environment. We will ship it as soon as we can, really. The ability to look and see the named objects, select all. These were all lacking, and you know, for some of us who are used to Excel Desktop, this is like, duh, this should exist. But for us in Excel Online, every single feature like that requires a lot of work and effort to actually bring to the cloud, and that's what we're working on, trying to find the most useful, the most required features and bring them on. And that's what we've been doing for the past year. The ability to turn on and off filtering on ranges as opposed to tables is another basic capability that we've added this year. Freezing panes, another one. I just stuck it in there. You know, the printing options, they were just really, really basic, and we've expanded to include some more sophisticated ones, so you can now control the page orientation and print the whole workbook, etc. Last but not least, we made a significant effort to improve our accessibility. So we've added, for example, the accessibility checker, which should allow users to see how their workbook is suited for people with disabilities. We've improved the keyboard navigation and shortcuts. We've done some work on improving the high contrast view of Excel Online. So there are lots and lots of different improvements in this area. Narrator as well. And we believe that our focus, jumping a little bit ahead, our focus will continue to be on introducing additional lightweight editing capabilities within Excel Online. Questions thus far? Okay. So what I'll do is a demo, just to make sure we have a feel of the tool. Okay. not a long demo, just a few bits and pieces. So let's take a scenario where there's a guy named Alex who created a report. He's an analyst for Contoso, and he created a report that his manager asked for, and now he needs to share it with his manager and other team members and let them review and let them use it. So let's say he goes into his OneDrive, he takes the report, uploads it to his OneDrive folder. Here it is. He checks that it works. Yeah, looks like it's all there. So he can go and share it with others. At this point, he might decide that, well, he wants to share it with his manager, Adele, first, and later on with others. So he sends it to his manager. And let's say that Adele is working on a different computer, obviously, and she's in her Outlook, so she will get this email momentarily where Alex has shared the workbook with her, so she can open it via this link, and she can see the report. One thing to note, this annoying behavior of having to switch to edit mode, we know about the problem. We're actively working to resolve it. It is going to be resolved, okay? So this will soon go away. People will actually be able to open their workbooks with the highest level of permissions that they have. Edit, view, whatever, yeah? So assuming that Adele has edit permissions, it will open in edit mode automatically soon enough. So let's say that Adele is now reviewing the workbook, and the first thing she sees is that, well, it has data for all the years but 2017, so she might say, okay, I want to just leave a comment saying, hey, add 2017 up-to-date data. All right, you can leave the comment in, and then she browses through other tabs, and she sees the by month data, but, well, she's more comfortable with numbers, really. So she would go to the table and maybe try and see what months fall below average. So she'd go in and find out which ones fall below average. These ones would look better with sidebars. So let's add them. Hold on. And then she now wants to sort it a little bit, so she would go and enable filtering and sorting on this range. She could then sort it and see a nice and neat view, and this suits her well. By the way, all the actions that users do in Excel Online, they are saved automatically within the workbook, so there's no save button for all those who hasn't worked with Office Online apps. This is the case with all of them. Let's say she's continuing to review the document, and here she sees some analysis of sales, but it's not cross-cut across the product's color. So she finds it interesting. She might want to understand how sales compare to the product's color, and now she's able to do that by inserting a pivot table. Okay, here it is. So color, sales, normal pivot table, and it works. It works in my environment. That's how we say it. Not in yours yet, but it will soon, by the end of this year. Sort by value. Okay, so gray is really not selling well, and black is. Okay, so this is the kind of activities that she does, but she really, she's unsure about the sales numbers, and she would like to have her store managers review the sales numbers. So she can go and share it again, okay, with a few more people, her store managers. So let's say she sends it to Christy and Ben. Okay, add message. So let's say, please review sales figures. Cool. Okay. So a few messages have been sent, a few have been received. This is Christy, and she is now able to, well, she just received a message saying, please review sales figures. She doesn't have Excel desktop at all. She's a store manager. She doesn't work with Excel on a daily basis. So she just does ad hoc tasks when her manager asks her to check things. So she can open it up. And in order to become Ben, I just need to re-log in because I ran out of browsers. Second. Okay, cool. Okay, and the email is waiting for me here. So Ben and Christy happen to log in at the same time, and they need to compare sales figures. Let's see if we... It was in this place. So one thing we can note is that once Christy goes into edit mode, she suddenly sees that there is another contributor editing this document. The same can be said about Ben, who seems to be logged in as a guest contributor, which is strange. That's how demos go. He sees that Christy is editing the document, and he sees where Christy is. You can see that she's at cell C6, okay, and she's doing something there. So at this point, he realizes that Christy is in, and he's like, okay, he can start talking to Christy. Hi. Okay. Christy gets a message. And they can start discussing some cell values and collaborating on the document, editing the cell values in parallel, and it's all saved automatically back to the document. So that's kind of the idea of collaboration in the browser, using Office Online applications, using Excel Online, sharing workbooks between users, and being able to edit the document without leaving the browser. Okay? So that's the demo. I'll switch back to the presentation. Any questions thus far? All right. Let's discuss a few more topics. Extensibility and programmability is one realm of efforts that we're pursuing. So it's really about allowing you to take Excel capabilities and use them in your applications, in your scripts. And we're trying to do that using web-based technologies. one thing, one option that you have is to create add-ins. And add-ins are cross-platform. So when you create an add-in, you really want it to work across different Excel endpoints. You don't really want some functionality that is just pertinent to a particular Excel endpoint. So we're allowing for this by introducing Excel JavaScript libraries that you can use. And when you create an add-in, you basically created a web application that runs within Excel. These same kind of capabilities exist for other Office Online applications, by the way. So when you create an add-in, you can create an add-in for Word Online, for Excel Online, etc. And these add-ins would work for Win32, online platform, macOS, iOS. So you shouldn't worry about creating other endpoints, for other add-ins for other endpoints. REST APIs is another way to communicate with Excel and do programmatic solutions. This way is more suited for scripts you do, for web applications, mobile applications that you do. These apps can communicate with a service we have. It's called Microsoft Graph. They can communicate via REST, putting in some JSON formatted info, authenticating using OAuth 2, which are all standard open source technologies. And once your script communicates with the service is able to go and fetch a workbook from one of the cloud file hosts, open it up, and allow for your application to run different commands and different operations against this workbook programmatically. Okay? If you want to know more about programmability, we invite you to get involved, really. The first place to start is probably with the development portal of Excel. There's a lot of information there. There's also tons of information in Stack Overflow under the tags that you see on the screen. We would also like you to influence what we do. We really want you to go in and start filling in asks and ideas into the user voice portal. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but we'll cover it in more detail in one of the next slides. And one other interesting place that you can visit is the open spec. We're maintaining an open extensibility spec in GitHub, and those who are familiar with it are actually going and reviewing the stuff that we want to do next, commenting on it, influencing our priorities and the way we do things. So you're all welcome to join this community and participate. Also, there were a couple of related sessions during this Ignite, so if you're interested in extensibility and programmability, you can always go in and fish for those. Notably, Excel for Developers is a very good session on the subject, and there were also a few labs that you can look for. Any questions? Okay. Topology and licensing. So one thing to note about Excel Online is that it's available both in cloud and on-prem. In cloud, Excel Online is integrated with quite a few Microsoft services, and not just Microsoft services. So whenever you open your files from cloud hosts, whenever you open your workbooks from cloud hosts, and it opens in the browser, Excel Online is behind that. Whenever you use Power BI and you see full fidelity Excel workbooks embedded in their portal, Excel Online is behind that. And obviously, as an end user, you can go into the O365 itself in the WAFL, and you can see Excel as one of the applications. And when you press it, you arrive at Excel Online, and that's how users would usually arrive there, or via their OneDrive and SharePoint Online hosts. For the on-premises, Excel Online ships as one of the web applications of the Office Online Server. So Office Online Server is a product that ships with high-value products of Microsoft. We will cover it in a bit more detail in the next slide. But notably, the way people deploy it is usually with SharePoint. SharePoint server, so they hook it up with SharePoint server, and people who use SharePoint portals and they have files and workbooks in their document libraries are able to open it by clicking the link and opening the files in Excel online on-prem. Another common use is with Exchange Server. So whenever you have a workbook arriving in an email as an attachment, and you open up this attachment, it would open up in Excel Online. And the latest edition, I believe this year, Power BI reporting server has been introduced, and it is also capable of integrating with Excel Online. So you can now store your workbooks in PBIRS in this server as opposed to SharePoint Online. And these workbooks would also open up in the Office Online server in Excel Online. Okay? You can also embed your Excel workbooks in pretty much any site using iframes that we provide. I can even show you where it is. And you can also use Excel Web Access web part to embed it in your SharePoint. And the Power BI portals we've already covered. One second, let me switch back to the presentation, to the demo. I believe that the sharing is somewhere nearby. Yeah, so it's here. You can do embed, and there are a bunch of options here, and at the end you get an iframe, a piece of HTML code that you can use. Okay? All right. Licensing in the cloud. Excel Online is part of O365. So whenever you purchase an O365 license, pretty much any one of them, Excel Online will be amongst those things that you get. For some O365 licenses which are free, like E1 for EDU, you would get Excel Online free as well. And as I already mentioned, Excel Online is integrated with a bunch of other services that Microsoft provides, and you will just use it seamlessly. Licensing on-prem, so Excel Online is part of Office Online Server, and Office Online Server ships free with high-value products of Microsoft. Whoever has access to Microsoft Volume Licensing Service Center will be able to download Office Online Server from there, deploy it in their on-prem environment, hook it up to their file host, WAPI host, and work with it. The on-prem solution is also up to date with regular updates that we provide. These updates usually ship a bit later than to the cloud, so for those who use the cloud environment and the on-prem environment, it's a bit exotic, but it happens. The on-prem environment would get the features a bit before the on-prem environment. The cloud environment, the cloud environment is updated more frequently, simply because it's our service, it's easier for us, and it's less volatile for our customers. And it's also backward compatible, so you can still edit and produce workbooks in legacy versions of Excel Desktop and upload it to your on-prem environment, use it via Excel Online. Questions? Okay. A little bit about roadmap highlights. So what we'd like to continue and do is improving the lightweight editing capabilities. Specifically, one of the main areas is copy-paste, duplicate worksheet, inserting rows and columns within a table, some performance improvements that we'd like to do. We also want to bring innovations to Excel Online. So as you probably heard, there are a bunch of new and exciting capabilities coming over to the Excel desktop environments, notably the insights and the new data types. And we have an aspiration to bring them to the online world as well, and hopefully it will occur in the near future. We also would like to continue and evolve our programmability solutions. This is something that we have maintained the focus on, and we will continue to maintain this focus. We will continue to add new APIs, evolve our events infrastructure so that our IT audience out there can actually start and base programming solutions on these capabilities. And obviously, we will continue to listen to you guys and see what else is bothering you, what else is lacking. We monitor the user voice website pretty closely and some other channels as well. We will touch base on those in the next slides. A few notable changes that are coming. So defaulting to edit mode is one of them, as I already mentioned. We're working on that actively. Increasing the maximum file size is another item that is high on our agenda. We had a lot of complaints that the file sizes that we allow for are not sufficiently big. So we know about this. We're working on it. Improving page load time and other performance and quality of service requests are also something that we're dealing with. Questions about that? Yes, a few. Could you possibly come to the microphone? Sorry.
For two people editing, like if you want to roll back, let's say, you worked at night and then in the morning you realize, oh, I don't think I should do that. How far can you roll back? Is it all the way to the beginning when the file was created?
The versioning of files is a feature of the host. So in SharePoint Online, for example, you have versioning. And whatever they support in terms of versioning would be available. So the Excel Online itself, it does not version files. The tool that version files is the tool where the files are stored. So yes, in SharePoint, there is versioning. I'm not sure about other, so for example, OneDrive Consumer, I'm not sure there is versioning there. Correct me if I'm wrong. Hope it answers your question. Go on. Yes.
Is there any move towards adding features to the view only, specifically split window and filters? It's hard to read that data unless you give someone edit access, and you may not want to.
Yes, we know about the asks of having almost another mode of operations where users can review the workbook without going into edit mode. So one ask in particular had to do with the ability to comment on a workbook without going to edit mode. What you're saying is a bit different. It goes a little bit further down the editing path. And I think our answer to that would be to open workbooks in edit mode by default. But you probably want some other kinds of permissions. Let's discuss it offline after the session. I would like to hear more about your ask, okay? It's interesting. Yes, please.
Yes, sorry, I have a cold, so I hope you can hear. Are you looking into having support for running macros?
For running macros, as in VBA macros?
Yes.
Okay. The answer is no. No. There is no plan to bring VBA to online. Not least because VBA as a technology is not really suited for the web world. It's a bit old, I would say. But we know about the ask, and we know that a lot of people have invested a lot in their VBA scripts and macros, and they're wondering how to port it today to the web. It's not at all exotic. I know that there is a whole group that their sole purpose is to try and address these kinds of asks. I do not know where it stands and what's the status of it. So Again, if you want, I can hook you up with the right people, and they would be able to answer your questions, hopefully. Okay? Yes, please.
Okay, question I have is, are you also thinking about adding protection to Excel workbooks online?
Yes. You mean workbook protection, worksheet protection?
Yes.
Yes. The answer is yes. We're working on it actively. Yes. Some of it may land this year, and some of it may land literally probably Q1 next year. But yeah, there is work around that. I believe that files with workbook protection, you can already open them in Excel Online. What you probably want is the ability to add workbook protection in Excel Online as well. So again, we can discuss your particular ask offline and see exactly what you need. But the general answer to your general question is yes. Okay? Anyone else? Okay. So last but not least, resources. One thing we have is a community. We have a very big community, in fact, of people, and we encourage you to join it. So I think that would be the first thing you can do, is go into our community website, see the blogs, answer questions, ask questions, participate. It's great. It's a great way to communicate with us, let us know what you want, and communicate with all the other users of Excel out there. Excel User Voice, I mentioned it a number of times throughout the presentation. This is a website dedicated to your ideas and your complaints. So whatever you have, whatever feedback you have for us, it would be great if you can go in, search for similar feedback, vote for feedback that you think is pertinent and you can relate to that. Add your own ideas and your own feedback if you don't find any kind of similar topics. We have quite an audience there that comes in and actively participates and influences our roadmap, and we encourage everyone to do the same. So the more people we have there, the better. Okay? There are a bunch of resources here in the deck, so you can later on seek the deck at the Ignite website and download it. There are a few good links in there. That's perfectly. That's it. Okay. There's one last slide about evaluating the presentation, so please do. And any other questions would be good now. So, anyone else? No. Well, I think that's it then. We're 6 minutes early. Okay? Thank you.